They told us to trust the science. But what if the science was bought? What if some of the most important health recommendations over the last 50 years were built on lies? Today, I'm going to take you inside one of the biggest health cover ups in history. Calculated plan to mislead the world. In the 1950s, researchers and doctors were starting to notice something: dramatic rise in heart disease. At the time, there was growing concern that sugar could be a major contributor. Debate in scientific circles intensified. Was it sugar or was it fat? At this stage, no one was entirely sure, but the finger was definitely pointing in sugar's direction. And that's where the sugar industry decided to act. The Sugar Research Foundation, now known as the Sugar Association, represented the interests of sugar manufacturers. And in 1965, they did what any powerful, well funded industry would do when threatened. They went straight to the source of public trust: academia. They paid three Harvard scientists, Mark Hegsted, Frederick J. Stair, and Robert McGandy, to produce a scientific review article. This article would be published in the New England Journal of Medicine. The goal? Shift the blame from sugar to fat.
Codenamed Project 226, the industry was funneling thousands of dollars to a pair of influential Harvard nutritionists, led by Dr. Mark Hegsted. One secret memo spells out the terms of the payoff: half to be paid when you start work on the project, and the remainder when you inform us that the article has been accepted for publication. The scientists' job was to review and dismiss findings that linked high sugar consumption to heart disease, and instead blame saturated fat and cholesterol, giving sugar a free pass.
Their payment was equivalent to $50,000 in today's money. But this wasn't just the case of sponsorship. The Sugar Research Foundation set the goals for the review. They chose the studies to include. They even reviewed drafts and approved the final content. And none of this was disclosed. And while Harvard scientists were being paid to defend sugar, another voice was trying to warn the world. That voice was John Yudkin. Yudkin was a British professor who published a groundbreaking book in 1972 called Pure, White and Deadly. In his book, he warned of the dangers of sugar consumption and its link to obesity, diabetes, and heart disease. But Yudkin's voice was drowned out. Why? Because around the same time, another scientist, Ansel Keys, was gaining international attention. Keys had published a study which squarely put the blame for heart disease on saturated fat. He was charismatic, politically connected, and aggressive in defending his position. Yudkin, meanwhile, was ridiculed, marginalized, and labeled a fringe voice. And very soon, his research funding dried up, and his credibility was attacked. In public health, it wasn't a scientific debate anymore. It was a turf war, and sugar won. The pro-sugar article was published in 1967 in the New England Journal of Medicine. It concluded that fat and cholesterol were the primary drivers of heart disease. Sugar, barely a mention. This paper, written by Harvard scientists, funded by the sugar industry, and published in one of the world's most trusted journals, it changed everything. Governments around the world adopted new guidelines. The food industry went all in on low-fat everything. And the public, with no reason to doubt what they were being told, they obeyed. We stopped eating fat. We started eating more processed carbohydrate. And for the sugar industry, that major PR problem just disappeared. By the 1970s and 80s, low fat was more than just a trend. It had become like a religion. Supermarkets were flooded with low-fat yogurt, low-fat cookies, low-fat granola. All heart-healthy products packed with sugar and refined carbs. And we got sicker. Obesity rates climbed, type 2 diabetes exploded. Metabolic syndrome became common. In the 80s, the new buzzword was Syndrome X. The cure? Stop eating so much fat. Eat less fat, eat less red meat, and count those calories. And we did it. We trusted the science. For decades, no one knew about this Harvard sugar cover up. That changed in 2016. Dr. Kristen Kearns, a researcher, found a box of old letters in the Harvard archives. What she found was damning: direct correspondence between the Sugar Research Foundation and Harvard scientists. And these weren't just thank you for the funding letters. These were detailed instructions, strategies, edits. The sugar industry didn't just fund the science, they dictated it.
Yeah, it followed the playbook of the tobacco industry. The number one playbook rule is the first thing you do is you attack the science. You cast doubt on the science. Merchants of Doubt, the book and the movie, explain all that. And the Sugar Association was doing exactly that. It was trying to get researchers to produce research that would minimize a role for sugar and shift the blame elsewhere. And they were very frank about what they wanted, and the investigators agreed that that was what they were going to do. Pretty shocking.
Dr. Kearns went public, and her findings were published in the Journal of the American Medical Association. Finally, the truth was out. One of the authors of the review, Mark Hegsted, later joined the USDA. The USDA helped shape the guidelines that pushed the diet of low-fat, high-carb to millions of Americans and influenced policies around the world. Think about that. A man paid by the sugar industry is then put in charge of telling Americans what to eat. And this is how systems get hijacked. What about the Sugar Association? They're still around, still defending sugar, still dismissing its role in chronic disease. And you just have to look around you. We're currently living in the aftermath of this cover-up. People are metabolically broken. Kids develop fatty liver disease. Type 2 diabetes is hitting harder and earlier. And millions are stuck in the cycle of food addiction, medication, and confusion, simply because the truth has been buried for decades. Sugar got a free pass and fat was demonized. The next time someone tells you to just trust the science, ask, who funded it? Was it done in good faith, or was it done to protect an industry? The science isn't settled when the science is for sale. We aren't broken, we've just been misled. But we can all take our health back. To discover how deep this all goes, check out this video next.